obviously the next step is going to be, we've got our login box, but we don't have a sign up box. So time to go to the whole reusable elements thing. So in Bubble, coming from the Bubble world, we have reusable elements, really handy things to use. In Noodle, whereas in Bubble, I felt like reusable elements are really when you have to reuse something, right? So not just for packaging things up. I know when I use Airtable, the AirDev canvas at one point, that felt like this is a step towards really packaging visual elements into clear chunks, and then using those chunks no matter whether they're only used once. Like having a footer might just be used once, but just because it's sort of, packaged together like that, that makes it easier to work with. And in Noodle, you really kind of quickly understand that packaging things up into reusable components is just a good practice, because the amount of things going on the screen, it can become very, very messy if I were to put the login box and just say, oh, I'll add a sign up box at the bottom here. That's going to end up being incredibly messy, just because you're going to be scrolling down to look at what the sign up stuff is doing, or and there might be interconnecting noodles and stuff like that. And this is a small example, but it can get really, really messy. So what we're going to do is we're going to package this login box up into a reusable element, or I'm going to put it in its own reusable login, or maybe I'll use this container, keep the container, but yeah, so I'm going to keep the container, and I'm going to put everything that's inside it into, we're going to call this login sign up box, and then we're going to call this login group, and then we're going to put everything from here into login group. So now it's child login group. So did that work? Why did that go weird? How come login group is so much smaller than? Oh, because I had vertical gaps there. So I have to put a vertical gap here as well, and then take the vertical gap out of this, and then that should be all fine. So it's a content. It's kind of a content width. I'm wondering why it's not going to the full size of the login box. What did I do here? Oh, because I put padding. Duh. Great. That's fine, because then we just keep that same padding on the main container that we're going to use for the sign up box as well. So keep that padding out of there. So this whole login flow that I've got here, all of these elements here, I want to package them up. So I have a reusable login group. So I'm going to copy all of this. Right. And then I'm going to go, and so this is a question of organization. In Noodle, I like to organize myself this way. It depends whether you want to keep your reusable components like I do in the context where they're used, or do you want to have like different sheets that have like, maybe different folders that contain different reusable elements. And that could be a handy thing to do. And you'll see me creating folders later. Folders are really, really useful. But for the moment, I'm just going to use this slightly messier logic of saying within the login page, I've got a login reusable element and a sign up reusable element. And they're going to be like children of the login page, but they're only children in the sense of the organization of the component tree, not actually in the object model. So it doesn't matter quote unquote matter where you put the components in the end. You can really sort of organize them as you like in this left pane, because in the right pane it doesn't actually make a difference. In the actual front end or the logic or anything, it doesn't make a difference. Anyway, let's make a visual component. We're going to call it login group or login box, whatever. So that becomes a child of that in the hierarchy of your kind of organization of your project. It gets a group by default, because if it doesn't have a group, it's a logic component. If it doesn't have a visual group, then it's a logic component. So if I delete this, then it becomes a logic component just by nature. And you'll see later how that matters when something is a logic component or a visual component. But I'm deleting that group just because I already have a parent group, and each reusable component can only have one like overall parent group, one main parent group, and then everything else should be a child of that. Similarly to as how a page has just one page element and everything else is a child of the page, you have to have the kind of top level element in a visual component as well, where everything else is a child. So I deleted the original group so I could use my group instead. So what does that do? Everything here is just now kind of compartmentalized. I can, which might be a bit scary, but I can delete all of this. Oh my goodness. And then I drag my visual component in and stick it under here. And there it is. So like magic, it doesn't really do anything that different. It's just packaging it up into one node. And I can actually find that node here in my project components in the node picker. It means that if I go later into, say, in the dashboard, I want there to be a logout button that sticks up a pop-up afterwards that says, do you want to log back in, and not go to the login page? Well, I can just reuse the login box over there, and that'll do the same thing as it does here. So it's really good practice in general. Now what we want to do is take this sort of same configuration and turn that into a sign-up box. So I'm not going to use the login logic. I'm just selecting these elements because I'm going to copy them. And in the login page, I'm going to make, or what I could do, no, actually, here's the easier way. My login box, I'm going to click and duplicate it. And then I'm going to rename that sign-up box. So right now it's the same, exactly. I have to go in and rename because naming conventions, naming, good practice. Sign up group, welcome text should still be there, email input will still be there. We're going to have probably a password and maybe a password confirmation or something like that. Could be fun. And then login button is going to be sign up. Sign up. I forgot password we don't need because you're not going to forget your password if you're signing up. Go to sign up is going to be go to login. And the text is going to be already have an account. Log in. There we go. All this can go because I don't need this anymore. I'm going to use something else. And so that's good. And we're going to work on the logic of that afterwards. But that was just to see a little bit about how that works in terms of reusable components. So this component, now I'm going to put it in the same hierarchy as the login box. I'm going to put this as a sibling of the sign-up box, login box, sign-up box. So I can see, I know that I didn't change the title. So welcome to Learn Book. Please sign up below. So I got please log in below and please sign up below in two different boxes with sign up and password. What should I put? Confirm your password. And I guess I'm going to want the first name and the last name as well. Probably next to each other, side by side. I hope that works on mobile. We'll see. So let's put a couple of inputs there. I'll just copy them because then I get the style copied as well, which is handy. So email input is going to become, no, actually, let's not do that. Let's change this first. First name input, your first name, and the type is going to be text. And then we're going to copy that. It'll be easier to copy that one and call it last name input. Your last name. Okay, and now they're in a vertical group, so I've got to change them to a horizontal one. Now that's totally overflowed, gone crazy. So I'm going to change this to having 40% width. Is that good? No, it's terrible. And 40% width. Okay, and then there's going to be a horizontal gap of 10. Is that right? Yeah, I'm not crazy. Are they the same width? I'm really bad at this stuff. Name inputs. That looks okay. Your first name, your last name, your email, password, confirm your password, sign up. Nice. So now we've got a nice little reusable element sign up box and reusable element login box. And the next thing we're going to have to look at is like A, how do we get the sign up flow to go? And B, how do we switch? Because this looks really dumb. Maybe I'll do the switching thing first because it's a bit easier. So this is going to be a section about a chapter in my YouTube video called switching between components. This is really important. Like, this is quite fundamental in Noodle and in development in general. How do we switch between? So I mean, I battled with myself coming up to this because I know that there's things you can do in Noodle because it's so flexible. You can do things where, for example, you could argue that me creating two of these elements is inefficient, because if I then decide, oh, actually, the field here is, I don't know, not right, then I have to change it to do something else. It means I have to change this field in the login box, and then I have to go into the sign up box and change it as well. So development wise, that would be considered inefficient. The most efficient would be if I took a bit of extra time at the beginning and made one reusable element that has something feeding into it that tells it you're a login box or you're a sign-in box. And then inside here, there would be like a dynamic form where the form is populated by an array that I've constructed myself, a JSON array, and the different fields are labeled the right way. So it's like, this is a sign up field, this is a login field. And so I did want to kind of do that just to show it, but it's actually sometimes more trouble than it's worth. And when it's this kind of thing where I know that I've only got these two, and it's not going to be 3 or 4 different forms, I kind of feel like taking the lazy way out and the inefficient way out. But and then taking a hit when it comes to the future, and I'm like, oh, now we have to change the button or whatever, and so I have to change it in 2 places instead of 1. That's just a choice you have to make in this kind of process, in the development process. And so